Hello, everybody. Is this live? I can't tell if this is live. I think it's not live. Oh, here we go. Hello. Hello, everybody. Um, my name is Nora. It's lovely to be here with you all today. I'm going to be reading some poems and answering some questions and just spending some time with you all. And I am very excited to be here. I'm just gonna give a few minutes for everybody to start rolling in. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little frazzled by the virtual aspect of all this, like, live video. I've done obviously Zoom calls a million times, but I haven't done a live video before. Anyways, I'm gonna be reading some poems for you from my new book project, which is not selected for publication anywhere yet, so can't plug that, but I do have a chapbook out, which you can find on my website. I'm going to be reading some poems about gay love. I'm going to be reading some poems about experiences with transmisogyny. I'm going to be reading some poems about, life in the hyper-mediated internet age, which I think we can all relate to. I'm going to be reading some poems about, my relationship with religion. I think I'm really interested in writing that explores the underlying cosmologies that we kind of accept and take for granted as part of our understandings of reality. And, I think there are things that we take for granted about how we believe the universe to be constructed. And I think these are different for each person, and they're also different for different cultures, different social contexts. And I'm really interested in interrogating the ways specifically my context growing up has informed, my relationship with understanding justice, understanding violence, understanding power. Um, yeah, so some of these poems are forthcoming at some journals. The first poem I'm going to be reading is forthcoming at Foglifter, I believe. The Book of Eve was just published at the journal, OSU's The Journal, so thank you so much to them, and you should definitely check out that issue. There are some amazing poems in there, including one by my friend Ruben, his poem Eli, which is stunning, gorgeous, amazing. I'm going to be reading a poem that is forthcoming at Washington Square Review, and I think that's it. Yeah, I think the rest is new unpublished poems, so that's exciting. I'm going to check the comments real quick to see if anyone has said anything. Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Shannon. And just gonna, wait a few more minutes for people to. I know I started a little bit early. I have a bit of a desire to be hyper punctual, so it sometimes becomes a little bit unfashionably early. Yeah, some of these poems I'm going to be reading are, I think contending with what it means to be online, as we say, be really enmeshed in social media culture, really enmeshed in the panopticon of the dissolving boundary between the public and private sphere for us, what it means for us to come of age in this context and really be in our formative and developmental years in the context of hyper-mediated existence and hyper visible existence, particularly as queer people, when we are targeted for scrutiny and for disposability and for particularly intra-community discourses, which can be quite aggressive at times. I'm going to be reading a lot about desire and different ways desire manifests. Desire manifesting both as like in an illicit queer desire in your youth, as like something you can't or don't understand, is a particular theme of mine. I think a lot about my relationship with queer identity growing up and how I really didn't understand anything about that kind of stuff. I didn't have exposure to like materials or resources that would teach me about these kinds of things. I had a lot of desires, but I didn't know what they meant. I didn't know how to act on them. I didn't know how to understand them as part of my identity. And so I write a lot about that like confusion, that gray area, and the like different ways this kind of um, tapping on the back of your head, like, you know, something's wrong, but you can't quite place it, like manifests in your growing years. Um, Wonderful. Okay. Well, I think I may go ahead and start reading some poems for you all. Thank you so much again for being here. Um, this first poem is based on, I don't know if anyone here loves My Chemical Romance as much as I do, but this first poem is based on the graphic novel The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys California, which is the graphic novel sequel to the studio album by MCR, Danger Days. And it is kind of like a response to, it's like fan fiction, I guess you could call it, about the two robot girls in that story, Red and Blue. And it's kind of like a reimagining of like this relationship they have of like alienated and subjugated life, and like from the perspective of like how this relates to transmisogyny and like the violences that trans people go through both socially and physically and medically, and you know, so on and so forth in society. So okay, this poem is titled, oh, also this poem is forthcoming at Foglifter, so keep an eye out for that. This poem is titled In Which Runaway Earthside Psychofusion Was First Achieved by Two Sentiment Gynoids Devoid of Volatile Love as Per Protocol. They want to kill us. They want to mind control us with their dark psychic magics and voice pattern advertisements. They want to brainwash us into anticipated soul death and cut marks. Look me in the eye. I've still got some bright spots left. I can see yours. They're all glimmery and small behind the dark parts of your brain. Love me hard enough and we can make them catch fire. They said, if we unplug ourselves, we'll die. Maybe we will. Who fucking knows? But I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all of it. I'm sick of the metal, and I'm sick of the stink, and I'm sick of the way we can't sleep anymore, even if we ask nicely. I'm sick of asking nicely for everything. I want something other than what we've been given. They told me we were built to be autonomous, that we were self-sufficient. I think they were lying to us. I think they built a vicious hybrid lack into our cores. I don't think we're powered with hydrogen like we're supposed to be. I think we're powered by gravity and longing and brilliant violet want, the kind that comes in bottles that the heartful cruel swallow in great hollow gulps. I think they pumped us full of need so that we'd run hot and hard enough to burn. Have you ever seen any of us survive her 40s intact? I just need to ask you if you're ready. Are you ready? We can be anything we believe ourselves to be. We've got a little reality poison in our veins. They didn't care what they stuffed us full of. They just cared that it killed us when we stopped working. When we started to lean too heavily on life support gynotech. Well, let's show them our whole purple guts. Let's show them how much it costs to make a thing shaped like us, what I wouldn't give to see their budget specs crash. One day, if they survive this, they'll look up and point at the yellow burning that killed every single one of their fathers. And they'll say, that's why we don't build suffers anymore. They'll say that's how the bioforms and boy shapes got blown from the city. We're something worse than kerosene. We're worse than ultrafission and clapping demon cores. Let's be bright for just a second and forever. Let's burst like fucking stars. Thank you. That was my first poem for tonight's reading. And I have another poem for you, of course. This poem is kind of... So I took a workshop with my hero, Torn Greathouse, and in this workshop we were given an assignment to write a poem using a form that is like mundane and existing in the world and like not necessarily a poetic form. So I wrote this poem in the form of a couple chapters of the Bible, because, you know, that's a very relevant text from my youth and my childhood, and just kind of like, I guess, troubling that and like reclaiming it and questioning it and rewriting and reimagining is something that's really important to me. So this is a poem about how the universe was created and how we choose to be loving, we choose to be ourselves, and how we choose to be girls. This poem is titled The Book of Eve. Chapter 1. In the beginning, there was a profound loneliness. The loneliness was small and infinite and entirely water and chemically supersaturated with salt. In the beginning, there was a profound loneliness, and out of that loneliness shattered a thing to bear the loneliness and a thing to comfort it. The thing to comfort spoke its first name, which was I am with you. And the I am with you shone across the face of the water, and the I am with you invented 3 vessels to carry itself to the lonely, and these were called girls, which means love when it becomes. The girls broke apart into smaller pieces and scattered the I am with you into a trillion points of light in the darkness and bound girl love into the inside of every particle. Chapter 2. In the language of the universe, a girl is a kind of relationship. A girl is a thing that happens between at least 2 celestial bodies which are bound by invisible social forces. Girl happens spontaneously in moments of mutual recognition, like light leaping from between atoms as they hope to cling to each other. The first human woke up in a forest, but she was not yet a girl, as no one was there to hear her say it. She had the power to name, but not the power to yet be named. First, she named the trees. Quaking aspen, paper birch, black spruce. Then the creatures of the river, chinook, steelhead, rainbow trout. Then she named her component parts, water, bone, light, wind. She held her aloneness against her chest and broke herself apart, and out of her pieces named the first girls, sculpting each other from the litter and light and the places where they touched. Chapter 3. In the beginning, we were something else. In the beginning, we wanted to be something else. In the beginning, we prayed and bargained and hexed to be anything but this. Oh God, oh my love, in the beginning we begged to be girls. We wanted to be girls, and it was bright sinless, it was pure crystal, it was all light everywhere. It was okay. We wanted to be girls, and oh God, it was good. Thank you. This poem is currently out in the journal. I think I mentioned that, and you definitely should check out that issue. There are a few of my other poems in there, and I think they really work well together with this piece, and I'm excited for you all to see them. Okay, my next poem is titled Kiss Me Fast. This poem is about getting off of Twitter, in a way. Getting off of Twitter and kissing your girlfriend instead. So let's all use this to contemplate our relationships with social media, I suppose. Kiss me fast. Smooth bore machined girl peels herself out of the wet interface of the platform. She peels herself, and there is a wet sucking, and suddenly parts of her are missing. Great flaps of her remaining organic parts have pulled loose in the digestive folds of the enzymatic gaze. The scattered parts of her are gone forever. They are distributed among the other wounds who remain bound to the plump agony of the platform, and the others cast lots for the media scraps. They howl like children and shake their fists full of highest bids, slick gobs of currency bought in attention and hatred. Thank you for your audience, she sobbed once, in a regular moment of weakness, allowed to feel something almost as good as forgiveness. She almost had enough clout to afford a name. One day, she could have a fresh face to beam and blossom in. I know on that day I will be close enough to real, she prays every night. I will have a mouth, and words will come out of it, and the words will help people understand that they can love me. They can love me. They can. Elsewhere, in the present, hydrogen-powered hunter-killer drones are analyzing the genetic makeup of her spent heart flesh, cast off and sold for the basic needs of its inadequacies, the fluid, concentrated, synthesized adoration that every human girl needs to breathe in the toxic miasma of online. She doesn't know it, but her tiny acts of transgression, of hope, have sent the alarms into noradrenal cascade, the psychotagonistic targeted ads ring hymnal. We are all connected. We are all beautiful and together. Can't you hear us in the metaversal chorus of echoes and virtual canyon rings? Don't take off your headset. We can't follow you into the meat world. None of us are alone here. I promise. Your heart is lying when it cries out for something more than this. The machine girl rips her connections straight out of her wrist. Hot cum and sterile meal replacement phylloamphetamine spray from her shredded ports. She turns around. She sees you. She finds her name. I find my name. I see you. I can see you with my real eyes. Oh God, we are all here and together, and the dream is over. I'm waking up and everything is erupting from my body in the shape of tiny griefs. I don't have much time. I don't know where we go from here, but I love you. I promise there's somewhere left for us. Kiss me fast. There's no time to lose. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here again. I really love your support and presence, and I love that we can share this space and have community and fellowship with each other. This next poem is about a Naruto anime music video that I made as a 12-year-old about Naruto and Sasuke being in love, set to the song Reliant K, Which to Bury Us or the Hatchet. The name of this poem, oh, it's also forthcoming at the Shade Journal. I forgot about that, I'm sorry. The name of this poem is Naruto and the Sasunaru Reliant K, Which to Bury Us or the Hatchet. When you were 7 years old, you kissed your boy best friend on the cheek. He struck you hard across your own. Boys don't not love each other, but the law is strict, and we learn the desire to strike is itself a longing for touch, you and your hearts. Take turns knocking love straight into each other. In grade 7, all of your boy friends are in love with Naruto. No one ever has to say Naruto and Sasuke are in love. It's obvious in the way that pain is obvious when felt, in the way your first language is obvious when heard. Love is the first language of children, but it is not the language of our country. And you are a little heritage speaker listening for the timbre of your old tongue. Naruto and Sasuke beat the living shit out of each other because they are in love, because they both know, and because they are afraid of how that hurts. They call each other's names, and suddenly it's a sound you know. In boy tongue, rage is grief's first name. In boy tongue, a tender thing is a thing first beaten soft. Two boys cannot say, I love you. They cannot say, I am desperate to know you forever. But they can knock their knuckle bones together and hope that the red of their fists looks enough like blush. They can hope the heat in their hands feels enough like touch. Two boys cannot say, I love you. But for the first time in these two Bishonen shinobi, you hear them say, I cannot bear to lose you. In a language of fists you have come to know well, and maybe it's enough, maybe it's hope, maybe it means somewhere there's a kind of touch for us. Thank you. I've got a short poem coming up next. This poem is about how physics is gay. It's titled Figure 1.1 Attractive Forces. All matter in the universe is filled with a longing. Everything wants to be close to everything else. The quarks are gay. They want harder the farther they are apart, and the hadrons they love so fabulously that we would call a polycule of bonding protons a star. And across the great black sea of interstellar space, the long yearning of galaxies pulls everything towards their comely lightless. Even your heart, neon hand-built engine sparking with magnificent thunder, is wound tight in amino acids, proteins, enzymes, all of which are shaped entirely by how they cling. I say I want to be near you. I want to press you hard against my neck until we burst yellow solar fusion. What I mean is, I am a part of this universe made of want. I mean, let's let our bodies give in to the pull. Thank you. I think we're coming up on my time, so I think I have one more poem for you all. This poem is another poem about how physics is gay, but also about how physics is trans, and how that distinction is meaningful and how that distinction is blurred, and it is forthcoming at Washington Square Review. On the physics of girlhood. A perfectly spherical girl approaches a long-remembered friend and creates a force of love equal to the mass of their own bodies times the rate of acceleration by which they ran from their mirrors. A perfectly reflective girl stands at an angle counter to her sudden realization in the open air of her lover's back. I am afraid of facing you. I'm afraid of bearing the full brunt of the release of girl particles from your excited body and seeing what comes out of my own. Hybridized girl orbitals amass around my heart and configure me into a kind of probabilistic lie. Given my current velocity, there is a certain likelihood along a certain geometry that what I am in this moment is something I cannot acknowledge. I think maybe girl is inevitable. If a sufficient force of repression is applied to separate a girl from her body, another girl in another body will manifest in the empty space. On a reflective plane, the girl facing me speaks. Not girl as a kind of metastable. In a false vacuum, you can live your whole life and never even have to look at yourself. This false vacuum survives as long as it possibly can, building suns and cities and narrow alleyways into which it hides all of its inevitable catastrophes. Mercifully, girl happens in a specific point in space. Girl spreads out in the buried universe as a perfect sphere, annihilating the forces that claim to hold life together. One day, you will be faced with absolute reality, and I promise that I will still love you. Thank you so much, everybody. Those were my poems for today, and I appreciate you all coming here. Let's see, what are some of the questions that we've got? Okay, what books have you been reading lately? Any recommendations? Let's see. I have been rereading Chen Chen's When I Grow Up I Want to Be a List of Further Possibilities, which I can't say it's my first time reading it or anything close to it. I've read it so many times. It's such an inspiration to me. It's so deeply impactful to how I think about poetry and I think about writing and the relationship the reader has to the speaker and the relationship the speaker has to the poet. I also, I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, and the director of that film spoke openly about how this book heavily influenced that film. And I think if you read the book and watch the film, it's really evident that they have a lot of shared lineage there. What else am I reading? Not poetry, but I have to recommend, because you heard my poem based off of it. You must read the graphic novel True Lives of Fabulous Killjoys, California, which is not new and has been out for a very long time, and I just only read it recently because I've been rekindling my love for the album Danger Days. Let's see, what else have I read? I've been reading and rereading Paige Lewis's Space Struck, which is a beautiful collection. It's stunning. It's intimate. It's so attentive and kind and passionate and honest. I really aspire to write like that in my work, and Paige Lewis's work is beyond comparison. It's stellar. It's stellar. You absolutely have to read her book. Their book. I'm so sorry. And the obvious question for a virtual reading: how has the pandemic and all of its strictures changed the way you work, read, and make sense of your place in the writing community? I think honestly, it has given me more time to write, in the sense that I am always at my desk doing work from home work, and I often have a few minutes here and there to write down a few lines. And I guess this kind of requires talking more about my practice, which I'm happy to do, which I write massive volumes of poetry, very little of which ever sees the light of day because very little of which is good. But I try to spend, I'm taking a small break right now, but I try to spend about 20 minutes between every day to like every other day writing a poem or writing a scrap of a poem and hoarding them in my little collection. And I feel like living in this like little box where my office, where it's like, I sit here when I'm hanging out with my friends virtually, I sit here when I'm gaming, I sit here when I'm in Zoom meetings. And so this space has really become like a space in my mind. And so it kind of like helps that I've saturated the space with like my creative thoughts and like have all my poems locked in here. I think it also has given me a lot of time to sit and read, which has been amazing. I feel like my writing practice has benefited so much from like really taking on a rigorous reading practice, or not rigorous, but like enthusiastic reading practice. I have to say, before the pandemic, I didn't publish very much. I had been published a few times in my campus journal when I was an undergrad, and I didn't read very much. I'm very embarrassed to say. But starting the pandemic, I was really like, I realized the role writing played in my life was incredibly intimate and emotional and helpful for processing. So I tried to integrate it in a way where I could be able to engage with it even when I wasn't writing, which was reading with other people and like reading other people's work and processing with them and processing with the speakers. And I feel like it's just come to a place where it's kind of essential part of how I engage emotionally with myself. See if we have any other questions in here. I do not think we have questions. Lovely. Okay. I will just maybe talk. Oh, actually, I think we are maybe coming up on time anyways. I'll just take this moment to plug a few things. You can find me on my website, norahikari.com. That's norahikari.com. I don't really have socials. I'm on Facebook for now, so to say. I have poems coming out soon in journals like Ploughshares, Washington Square Review, Fog Lifter, The Shade Journal. The journal just came out. I have a poem coming out at surfaces.cx, if anybody knows that journal. Lovely work there. I'm so happy and excited to be being published there. Let's see. I have a chapbook out. I have 2 chapbooks out. Girl 2.0, which is my most recent chapbook, you can find at Seven Kitchens Press, which is the winner of the Robin Becker Prize for 2021. And Dead Names, almost forgot, it was like so long ago now. Dead Names, which is published at Another New Calligraphy, which is my first chapbook. So if you want to see some of my older work, you're invited cordially to read from it. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your Sunday evening and week. Thank you. Bye.